Anisa Bhute. Dear Acharya Pranam. Yes, Anisa. In the NitnemSahib, it is said, Agai karni kirat vachi, ai bahi lekha kar samjhas. There, his good and bad deeds are added up. Sitting there, his account is read. So, she asks, what are these good and bad deeds that are being added up? Do the good deeds outweigh the bad deeds? What is this account that is being read? Good deeds and bad deeds are never with respect to the absolute. Good deeds and bad deeds are not in context of the truth or God or the Lord. They are with respect to you. You are someone to whom the words good and bad apply. To the absolute truth, nothing but the absolute applies. You live in the relativity of dualities. So to you is the duality of good and bad. So what is good for you depends on you. What is bad for you depends on you. What is good for the lion is bad for the deer. Now, that is a very, very body-centric and material example. Coming to humans, what is good for you? That which would give you that which you deeply, deeply desire. That which fulfills your deepest desire is good for you, all else is bad for you. It is purely in your context that the words good and bad have any relevance. Otherwise, they are totally irrelevant, meaningless. Are you getting it? So look at your situation, Anisa. Look at what bothers you, hounds you, cripples, contains and limits you. All that is bad. And so therefore, what is good? All that which takes you beyond your limits, your confinements, your ignorance. Is that clear? Man has always been puzzled about good and bad, virtue and vice, and man has always tried to find answers in a moral paradigm. Now, in a moralistic framework, you cannot find answers to this important question. It's a very important question. What to do, what not to do. In a recent camp, I spoke on karma, karma, vikarma, sakam karma, nishkam karma. The question of karma, what is a good deed, what is a bad deed, has always been a challenge to man. And we try to find the answer in 1,000 ways. The answer actually is simple. Forget the question, look at yourself, that is the answer. As long as you will grapple with the question, you will miss the real answer. You will start thinking and you will keep thinking as if the question has an absolute answer. If you will look only at the question, you will try for an answer independent of the subject. You will try to get a non-relative answer. Because you are not looking at yourself, you are looking just at the question, what is good, what is bad. You're not asking what is good for whom, what is bad for whom. You have totally ignored the subject. You're just looking at the question as if the question can have a subject independent answer. It cannot have that. Therefore, the trick lies in ignoring the question and looking at oneself. Forget the question, look at yourself. How are you living? That's the only thing that matters. How are you living? What else matters? And now you will immediately know what is good and what is bad. Is that clear? You ask, does this mean that good deeds outweigh the bad deeds? Depends on you. If you find yourself in sorrow and suffering, then I don't suppose you can conclude that the good deeds outweigh the bad deeds. Suffering is a result of bad deeds. Suffering rather is an expression, an indicator of bad deeds. So if you are in suffering, if you are in ignorance, if you don't understand, if within you remain hazy and unclear, then obviously there are a lot of bad deeds, bad decisions. What is a bad decision? That comes from a bad center. What is a bad center? The center which is not real. You see, a drunkard has fallen in a ditch. A drunkard has fallen in a ditch. Obviously, he knows nothing of the great center of the true self. Let's talk about two other centers. He's fallen in the ditch and he's bleeding. His skull has received injuries. There's a crack now and he's bleeding a lot. But because he is heavily drunk, he is feeling no pain. And because he is heavily drunk, he is dreaming. What is he dreaming of? He is dreaming of some fairies up there in the sky. So he is lying in the ditch with his face to the sky and he is dreaming of the fairies. Now he can either operate from the center of actual suffering. And what is that? The skull is broken open. Or he can operate from a center of drunken suffering, which is that I don't have the fairy. Where is the fairy? He can operate from both the centers, right? Do you see what a bad center is? Which ignores your real suffering. You do not even know what your real suffering is and you are allowing something else to dictate your actions. So instead of trying to somehow climb out of the ditch and nurse his wound, the drunkard is busy sending love messages to the fairy. And he's weeping, not because he's bleeding, but he's weeping because the fairy is not responding. This is a bad center. You do not even know your real suffering and you are weeping for a false suffering. Oh, such a bad thing, you know. Even suffering can be real and false. Yes. Most of us weep a lot, but we weep for the wrong reasons. Even our weeping has no truth, no depth. We do not weep for the real reasons. We weep because the fairy is not responding. Are you getting it? Before your suffering can be mitigated, learn to at least suffer truly. Our suffering has so much falseness. How would it ever be mitigated? And now you know the difference between the suffering of a saint and a commoner. The commoner weeps because he cannot get the fairy. The saint weeps because he sees the real condition of himself and the world. Weep for the right reasons. Are you getting it? What is now a bad deed? That operates from a bad center. What is a bad center? A bad center is the one that does not take into account your real problem. If you have a real problem, all your actions should proceed from there, right? But the drunkard is not proceeding from his real problem. Instead, he has created an imaginary problem and is working from there. Now that is a bad action. A bad action is totally oblivious of the real situation. In bad action, in bad deeds, you are always found fighting the wrong battle. Weeping the wrong tears and fighting the wrong battle. When you are fighting the wrong battle, even your victory is meaningless. And when you are weeping false tears, it makes no sense to console you, or does it? Therefore, the saints are sometimes perceived as being heartless. When you are weeping false tears, they do not come to you to wipe your tears, and then you think, oh, the fellow is so insensitive. It's just that you do not even know that you are weeping over a false issue. Know your real situation and act from there, and the deed will be good. Proceed from ignorance. Court the fairies. Woo angels. And that's a bad deed. Not confused? All right, you can proceed with the fairies. See, we talked of fairies and somebody has just okay. And then she asks, what is this account that is being read? You are being read. Nobody else is being read. By whom? By you. That is the principle of karma. Your actions, and you are the sufferer or receiver, whatever. You are the karta and you are the bhokta. You commit the deeds and you, yes, you receive the fruits. So there is no other place where the account keeping is happening. Nobody is maintaining a great register. It's all happening within your system. You don't need to ask who exactly is Chitragupta. And how do I bribe him? Sorry, there is no Chitragupta. Therefore, you cannot grease his palm. Yet, very, very immaculate record keeping is happening. It is not without reason that all religious traditions have said that everything is being watched and no thought, no action will go unregistered. The register is within.